Silver had its largest single-day drop in recent history, while large cap stocks stay stagnant and small cap stocks are like a hot air balloon on autopilot. We'll take a look at that as well as our Wells Fargo trade from a week ago and two other stocks in today's market forecast. Let's start with silver. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but it's a historic move, so we've got to talk about it. On Thursday last week, it dropped 28.5%. At one point, the low on Thursday was almost 35% lower than it had closed the previous day. I programmed this little indicator in TradingView to show us when it's had large drops. I've got the threshold set at 10% right now, and you can see you've got to go all the way back to 2020 before you've seen a drop on silver that's even 10% or greater. Here we had 13.59%, 12.3%. And what I was looking for is some kind of indication on what silver does after it has large drops. And what I want to point out to you is it doesn't necessarily mean that silver is going to crater. In fact, we may trade sideways or slightly bearish going forward, but here's the inception of the ETF back in 2006. You can see we had a large drop at the beginning here, 11, almost 12%, and then it went up. Let's take a look at the next one. We had some drops here going into 2008, but again, those all marked the bottom of a move, but this is not similar to what we're seeing currently. We had a parabolic growth going into our large drop, and that's more in tune with what happened in 2011 here. We had a large parabolic growth going up, and then a almost 12% drop, single day drop. But where do we go from there? Sideways to slightly bullish, and then started a little longer downtrend. So I don't think you're going to see silver continue to pound out loss after loss after loss going forward. We've had a pretty volatile move, and that may be the end of it. I do think with the use of silver in these semiconductor components, you're going to see silver hopefully stabilize here around 70, which is amazing because even with this drop, we are still up year to date from where silver started 2026. I don't have a great trade idea on this necessarily, but it's fascinating to watch, and we'll come back to it from time to time. Now let's jump over to the S&P 500, which continues to barely eke out some new highs. We've really been going sideways, or stagnant has been my word. If we look over at the NASDAQ, it's even worse. It's really gone sideways here. And while I don't think we're necessarily looking at a turnover yet on the S&P 500, what is evident is the small cap stocks have been the hero here for the last several months. Small cap stocks hopped in a hot air balloon, and they've been on autopilot just going up. We had a little bit of a pullback here in the last week or so, but if you were going to put your money in one spot or another back in mid-2025, small cap stocks was definitely the choice. We can look at that in TradingView by comparing the Russell's 2000 to the S&P 500, ticker symbol RUT. That's the index that represents small cap stocks, the backslash sign, and then SPY, which is the ETF that represents large cap stocks. What this tells us is as the candlesticks, or as the line, we can even switch over to a line chart here, as the line continues higher here, the small cap stocks, the Russell's 2000, is outperforming large cap stocks, the S&P 500. This is called a relative strength comparison. Typically, as this line is decreasing, you would see the large cap stocks outperforming, but we've had a rotation here. We've had small cap stocks be the hero. What that does is it guides some of my trading decisions, and I'm looking for stocks that are in the small cap index because right now they're doing better than their large cap counterparts. I do have a stock for you coming up in just a second, but before we go there, I want to go back and look at our Wells Fargo trade. A week ago, we looked at this trade. You can go back. I'll link to that market forecast video in the description. And we were checking out a bounce off support here, and we said this might be a good idea to consider a trade entry. Take a look at that market forecast. When Wells Fargo has recently interacted with these moving averages, it tends to act as a support, a floor, pushing price back up. And I would say that with our regular support, the blue line, and then also the moving average support, the darker blue line, there's a good chance that Wells Fargo is going to continue higher. If you were looking at a trade idea on this, I'd put my stop down here below support with a target on up around 95, maybe even $97 or beyond. We could do some additional forecasting using Fibonacci analysis if you're familiar with that kind of analysis. Now, if you had jumped into that trade idea, you would be up almost 4.5%, or as we like to calculate it here at Tradesmart University, 1.5R. Now, if you've never learned the R system of risk management, that sounds crazy. So I'll put it in the dollars for you. On a funded trading account here at Tradesmart, that would be about $375 cash in your jeans on that Wells Fargo trade. Now, if you like that kind of trade idea and would like more, I invite you to come check out our Power Trader Live open house. It's totally free. I'll put a link to this registration page in the description below. Come join us on Monday, February 9th. We'll talk through several trades and you can get a taste of what Tradesmart students have the opportunity to experience every Monday morning. Let's get back to the charts. If you didn't jump into the Wells Fargo trade, I think you're a little bit behind, but Wells Fargo has a brother called JP Morgan, and this one's a little bit better set up. We're just a little bit behind, but not too far. If we come over to my stochastic oscillator, which I like to tell me when stocks are on sale, quote unquote, we can see we've bounced up off from support. Stochastic is just crossing up through 20, and I think you've got an opportunity to trade JP Morgan on up towards $330 or so. I would put my stop below support. If you missed Wells Fargo, JP Morgan could be another opportunity you take a look at. Now let's go check out one of those small cap stocks I mentioned just a moment ago. Howmet Aerospace is another stock that we talked about in Power Trader. Let me zoom out here and show you. This has been in the most remarkable uptrend since, well, forever. I want to meet this CFO and shake his hand. He has done a great job of managing the value of these shares. This is a small cap stock, and if you remember the beginning of our forecast, small cap stocks have been performing pretty well recently. You can see our stochastic oscillator has come down and is below 20, and we're at the bottom of a rising channel on Howmet Aerospace. This could be a good stock to place a trade on. Let me draw a basic support and resistance line on here. This goes back forever. We analyzed this in depth in Power Trader, but for our purposes here, I think you could get a stop that's below this rising support and have an easy target on up here around $226 or so, and maybe beyond. Again, check out this beautiful bullish trend. I would not be betting against Howmet Aerospace right now, and it's in a good position to consider a bullish trade. Now, one last trade idea I want to leave you with is Avgo, or the company name Broadcom. Broadcom's been on my list for several days now, and I think we're getting to a point where it needs to make a decision. We've pointed out this beautiful support on Broadcom, and we're squeezing down into the corner of this little triangle. Now, I don't know which direction this is going to go, but if I was going to guess, I would be on the bullish side. Avgo, or Broadcom as the company is named, is another stock that just seems to be filled with helium. It goes up and up and up. We had a little pullback during the tariff scare in 2025, but generally speaking, Broadcom is known as a bullish trending company. So I'm going to guess, based on that information, that the stock is going to go up. But you don't get rich guessing. You get rich by being decisive and analytical. So here's what I would recommend. Keep an eye on this. You could wait until it breaks out, and that's going to give you your decision. The other thing you could do is kind of leg in with a scaled back position. So if you were going to place a trade right now, that's bullish. Get your stop down here around $310 or so, but maybe only do a half to even a quarter size position. And then as Broadcom breaks out of resistance and potentially comes back and tests that old resistance as new support, you could add to your position as it continues on up to new levels. This is going to be an extraordinary, amazing position size because you're able to get in here with a really tight stop and amazing targets as we continue on up towards 400 bucks or so. This could be a 1, 2, 3R trade, which again in dollars translates to $500 to $750 on this particular trade. Keep an eye on Broadcom, whether you get in now or you wait for some additional confirmation. I think this is going to be a trade that develops here in the next week. And that's it for your market forecast today. Come join us in Power Trader for free on Monday. I'd love to see you there. Let us know that you showed up from YouTube, and we'll be sure to give you a shout out. Blessings and favor on your trades as you go forward this week. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get additional market forecasts as they come out. We'll see you on Monday in Power Trader.